If you're expecting to repeat something throughout your scene, then it's a really good idea to make a prefab from your object. Maybe you have many trees in a forest, or repeating fish in the aquarium, buildings in a city, just anything again where there's going to be a lot of repetition. It'll really help the performance and make it easier to edit and work in your project if you learn about prefabs. So I'm going to use this hero character as an example. And I'd like to have numerous copies of it on the screen. So I'll go ahead and start by just choosing the game object, and it's fine, by the way. It's a parent with parts that'll work perfectly fine. And what we're going to do is I'm going to make a folder for prefabs down in the assets panel. We're going to create a new folder, and then you're going to just actually drag from the hierarchy area into it to turn it into a prefab. So let me go over and in the asset section, I'm going to right click, or you can hold control and click on Mac if you're not set up to right click, and then look for create folder. And then we're going to name that prefabs, like prefabricated objects could be one way to think of it. And it's just anywhere in assets. And then I'll go back over here. I'm going to select the hero object, and then you just drag it right down into prefabs and let go. And you can even see right away that it's storing a copy of it in this folder. Go back up to assets, and I can open prefabs. And you can save as many objects as you want. I could take the building that I made and do the same thing. I can drag it into prefabs. Then to create instances of this, you just drag and drop. So I'm going to take the hero and start to just drop it on the screen in different areas. By the way, it looks like different sizes depending on where I place it. If it thinks it's in the background, it's going to be smaller, or if it's further away or closer. But technically, it's an exact copy. It's coming out in the same size as the other objects. This is going to help performance. If you just copy and paste multiple objects, then it takes a bigger hit on file size and game performance. So that's a big reason to think about repetition and what kind of objects could potentially be saved as prefabs. And then if you look in the hierarchy, you can see these listed. They're also showing in blue. So they're color coding blue to help me identify it. They're also numbering the different instances. So they're all named hero, but again, you can see they're numbered to help sort out how many copies there are. The original is also highlighted in blue, the one I made the prefab from, and it doesn't have a number. So it's one way to recognize the original that I started with. In addition to looking for the color coding, you can also select objects and look over in the inspector, and if it's a prefab, you'll actually see that listed right up at the top. I see prefab along with buttons like open, select, overrides. And just to compare, this cube is not saved right now as a prefab. So if I select that object, it just simply doesn't say prefab. I can go back and forth on that for a minute. So that is going to give you some options to work with, and just again another way to recognize which things are prefabs and which aren't. They're also using the blue color coding here in the little icon in the inspector next to the name as another clue. If you have numerous prefabs, it can be confusing to keep them straight sometimes. And one approach is to select an object that is a prefab, and you can click the select button just to highlight which prefab it is down in the asset folder. For example, again, maybe I have numerous objects, but I can select one, click select, I know which one it is, and then I could drag out another instance, for example, of the same one quickly. Another value of using prefabs is that you can edit a prefab and have that change affect all of them. So for example, and I could select any of these to do this, but I think I'll select this because it's easiest to see right now. And then over on the right, I'm going to choose open the prefab to be able to edit it. So when I hit open, it looks like the rest of the screen is grayed out. And then I want to point out over here on the upper left, I'm just seeing the objects in the hierarchy for that hero prefab, which is not bad. It's kind of simplifying everything. So I'm only focused on these objects. So just for example, what if I wanted to add another object? So I think I'll go to game object, 3D, and add a cube. And I'll just do some quick modifications. Maybe I'll scoot it over and scale it. Maybe I'm going to add another arm or additional tool. It could be anything. It could be editing these other pieces, or again, like I'm doing right now, adding a whole new object. I'm not going to worry about getting it perfect, by the way. I'm just going to get it close in there. When you're done making the modifications, then you want to exit this editing mode. And a good way to do it is to look in this tab, just upper left corner. I see hero and scenes. You can click scenes to exit the mode. And then it's asking me, do I want to save the changes or discard? There's also a save button on the right hand corner I can use as well. But I'm going to hit save here. And at that point, you can see it's implemented on every copy. Each copy or instance of the prefab now has 2 objects extending out of it. And that's really convenient. You could start to build something like a building for your city. Go ahead and make it a prefab so you can create a lot of instances. And then you can still go back to the building and refine the shape. So it's kind of a really convenient idea with this. And I'm just going to do the workflow one more time really quickly. Maybe I want to delete the object I added. I changed my mind. So I can select any example of the prefabs, just open to edit. So this time I'm going to choose this shape and just hit delete to remove it. And then I'm finished. I'll click scenes in the top left corner and I'll save the changes. And then that change is duplicated in all of the objects, and also the one stored down in prefabs would reflect the change as well. So it's a really convenient workflow and really easy. I want to just remind you, we started by just dragging objects into a folder that we named prefabs. That's all you had to do to start to set this up in your document.